WWE's meticulous attention to detail when it comes to their event production, you can bet your sweet little hiney that their rings are the very best in the business. The best, perhaps, but it turns out their rings do occasionally cause issues. It doesn't happen often, but the ring ropes themselves have been known to come loose or even snap entirely during matches, forcing those in the ring to think on the fly and navigate what can be a dangerous situation. I'm Adam Pachisi from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 times the ring ropes broke during WWE matches. Join us. Number 10, Triple H vs. The Undertaker at Insurrection 2002. WWE's ring ropes haven't broken often, but they have managed to break on non-televised house shows, at television tapings, on live TV, and as Triple H and The Undertaker know all too well, during a pay-per-view main event. The Cerebral Assassin and the Dead Man were closing out the UK-exclusive Insurrection 2002 from London's Wembley Arena when disaster almost struck. Hunter was on top at the midway point of the contest when he whipped his opponent into the ropes. When Taker hit, the top strand came undone and he fell on his backside in surprise. It could have been a lot worse, of course, and thankfully he didn't go sailing over backwards and land on his big dead head. Since this was a pay-per-view main event and there was still plenty of time to fill, it's not as if the two men could just take things home early. And so they gamely, pun intended, soldiered on and worked around the malfunctioning equipment. They obviously couldn't run the ropes or do any spots that incorporated the use of them, but these two seasoned pros didn't let it stop them from seeing out a thoroughly mediocre match. Number 9, the New Age Outlaws vs. the Acolytes on Raw. Tag teams tasked with squaring off against the Acolytes had plenty to worry about on any given night. The two no-nonsense enforcers were certainly on the stiffer side, with Farouk's Spinebuster and Bradshaw's Clothesline from Hell in particular being two moves you would definitely feel the morning after. Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg were probably too preoccupied with keeping all their teeth in the right place to consider the prospect of the ring falling apart when they met the Acolytes on the October 18th, 1999 episode of Monday Night Raw. But that is exactly what happened just moments into their match when Farouk whipped the ass man into the ropes and the top rope tapped out. Like with The Undertaker in the previous entry, Gunn thankfully just took a butt bump and didn't fly backwards. They continued the match as planned, with the turnbuckle fully coming undone after Ron Simmons took a Bret Hart bump into it. With Gunn bleeding, the match basically became the Acolytes pummeling on his open wound, which included Farouk using a broken turnbuckle as a weapon, until Billy made the hot tag to the DOGG and things were promptly wrapped up. Number 8, the Hart Foundation vs. the Rockers on a Saturday night's main event taping. It's bad enough when a rope-breaking scuppers plans for a match, but how about when they scupper plans for a title reign? The Rockers never officially reigned as WWE Tag Team Champions, but they did win the belts. The match just never aired because the ring ropes decided to go off script. Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty were attempting to take the titles from Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart at the October 30th, 1990 Saturday night's main event taping in a 2 out of 3 falls match scheduled to go almost half an hour. The Rockers won the first fall, but during the second fall, the force of the anvil colliding with the turnbuckles caused one side of the top rope to simply fall off. They continued to grapple for another 13 minutes and had to change up their act, such as Bret taking his famous chest-first bump into the middle turnbuckle instead of the top one, doing about as well as they could given the circumstances. WWE management deemed the footage unusable, however, and shelved the match while ignoring Shawn and Marty's tag title victory. The bout finally became available, sans commentary, on the Heartbreak Kids 2007 DVD set. Number 7, John Cena vs. The Big Show at a WWE Live Event. Well, if one WWE star is gonna break the ring, it's gonna be The Big Show, isn't it? The world's largest athlete was involved in several ring-wrecking incidents during his WWE career, although they were pre-planned and would typically involve the whole thing falling apart and not just the ropes. However, during a match with frequent foe John Cena at a non-televised live event in Manila on September 8, 2016, Paul White's enormous mass combined with him daring to actually climb the ropes resulted in the inevitable. Show had Big Match John down on the mat and got on the middle rope where it looked as though he was going to attempt a Vader Bomb style move. Cena was already looking to roll out of the way when, as his opponent was bouncing up and down, the middle rope came apart. The Spiller in Manila, ladies and gentlemen. Taking advantage of the situation, Cena hit an improvised 5-knuckle shuffle before they went into the finishing sequence, which saw Cena win the match with an attitude adjustment. Hey, where's the Rise Above Ring Ropes t-shirt, John? Number 6, a Royal Rumble match at a WWE Live Event. No, you haven't memory holed the ring ropes breaking during the actual 1994 Royal Rumble match. That match went off without a hitch, but it wasn't the only Rumble WWE put on that year, or even that week. As a special attraction for the January 17th Madison Square Garden house show, WWE booked a full-on 30-man over-the-top rope special in the main event. Just 5 days before the pay-per-view version, many of the same competitors duked it out in the world's most famous arena, with the match boiling down to a final four of Owen Hart, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, and Fatu. One of those things is not quite like the other. But it was the Big Samoan who made it down to the final two, though he, along with Owen, had to contend with a missing middle rope after it broke during HBK's elimination, caused when Michaels was standing on the middle rope jaw-jacking with Razor Ramon, and Owen hit the opposite rope when he was whipped into it by the future Rikishi. They finished things up with no problem, with the Rocket going over, but the bastard in me kinda wishes the top rope had broken instead. Because, you know, it was a Rumble. Number 5, Chris Jericho and Christian versus Booker T and Goldust at No Mercy 2002. Thus far, we've seen this unwanted distraction disrupt mid-card matches and main events, but what happens when the rope breaks during the very first match on the show, a pay-per-view no less? Chris Jericho and Christian were defending their World Tag Team titles in the curtain raiser of No Mercy 2002, and the match was going just swimmingly until Jericho attempted what I think was going to be a second rope springboard dropkick during the closing stretch, and the middle turnbuckle snapped clean off. Middle rope, you just made the list! Quite literally in this case. Luckily for Y2J, he wasn't attempting a lion salt, otherwise things could have easily ended in tragedy. Lest we forget, it wasn't too terribly long before this that Japanese high flyer Hayabusa was paralyzed when he slipped on the second rope while attempting the same move. As it was, the foursome just had to think on their feet and adjust accordingly. Credit to Jericho, who after hitting the bizarre one with a bulldog on the title belt, got to the top rope and hit a picture-perfect moonsault for the finish. Number 4, the Oddities versus the Disciples of Apocalypse on Raw. You know, we often look back at the Attitude Era through rose-tinted glasses. Yeah, there was a lot of really good stuff, but there was a lot of dirge to suffer through as well. Case in point, the special Saturday edition of Raw from September 12, 1998. The worst of the worst from this pretty damn rotten show was a tag team match between Oddities, Golga and Kurgan, and DOA members Skull and 8-Ball. Mercifully, the match was short, going a shade under 2 minutes, but they still managed to knack up the ring in that brief window. It happened when Golga, a masked John Tenta during a career low point, ran off and hit the ropes. The awesome force of the former Earthquake going for his trusted avalanche splash was enough to knock the top turnbuckle loose. JR and King mentioned it on commentary, while Ron and Don Harris incorporated the loose rope into the match by choking Golga with it. As one of the bald bikers went to hogtie the Oddity, the Insane Clown Posse took that as their cue to run in for the DQ, allowing everyone to get out of there before someone got hurt. Number 3, Keith Lee and Sheamus versus John Morrison and The Miz on Raw. While the global pandemic might have wreaked havoc for WWE when it came to the company's usual way of putting on shows and doing business, the absence of actual fans and moving everything to the Thunderdome did allow WWE to control their environment more tightly. They could pump in their desired reactions, retape whole matches, and do all manner of other things from a production standpoint to ensure that they got the show exactly as they wanted it. One thing they couldn't account for, however, was the damn ring ropes breaking. Lee and Sheamus were teaming up against Miz and Morrison on the January 11th, 2021 edition of Raw when the Limitless One ran at Jomo and rammed him against the turnbuckle. Not only did he almost take Morrison's head off, but he legitimately took the top turnbuckle off in the collision. Big Keith looked pretty damn pleased at this act of destruction, and who wouldn't be, as Miz and the referee hurried to check on the Shaman of Sexy. WWE sensed it was a good time to cut to commercial, and when they came back, a ring crew member was busy working on getting the rope fixed. Number 2, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns versus Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre at a WWE Live Event. The responsibility of ending WWE's June 24th, 2018 house show in Anaheim, California in style went to the two ex-Shield members, a show-off and a Scottish warrior. The match was going as well as it should when McIntyre was sent into the ropes and the top one snapped in half. Oh, Drew, you big, clumsy, handsome idiot, you. Such a mountain of a man careening towards the floor from about 7 feet in the air could have been calamitous, but thankfully McIntyre was unscathed. Rather than truncate the match and rob paying punters of a proper main event, the quartet kept their focus and improvised to include spots with the loose rope and ones that poked fun at the situation, such as Seth doing a dive over the middle rope to the outside. WWE even put an article about the incident on their website and uploaded video footage of some of the shenanigans onto their YouTube channel. Props to all involved for wrestling a good 15 minutes in a dodgy ring and not missing a beat prior to the inevitable babyface triumph. Number 1, Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley at a WWE Live Event. Poor old handsome Drew McIntyre probably thought that tag match from Anaheim was the first and last time a WWE ring would malfunction on him. But here he was almost 4 years later and the same bloody thing only goes and happens again. Drew was taking on Lashley at a non-televised event in, of all places, Newcastle upon Tyne, a tremendous city full of life according to what the Newcastle Tourism Board has paid me to say here. Unfortunately, when he hit the ropes, he heard that familiar sound of ka-thunk. Yes, the top turnbuckle had broken again. Fortunately for McIntyre, he managed to remain on his 2 feet this time. Unfortunately for Lashley, he ended up almost moonsaulting his way to the floor while bashing his almighty traps off the ring apron on the way down as he went to grab the opposite rope a split second after it broke. Bobby was seemingly well protected by those glorious muscles of his and was mercifully able to continue without any issue. Come on, lads, I'm pretty sure they told you to go out there and tear the house down, not the ring itself. Bye.